Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Conversations with Vicki. And I'm so excited to have Joshua on with us today. He is an artist. He does a plethora of different things. I can't wait for us to learn in terms of like your life journey, Joshua, but more importantly, all the amazing things that you're doing, how you're finding the time to do it all, and what keeps you going. So we're going to start with the very first question. That is my favorite question to ask everyone that comes to Conversations with Vicki. And that is, who are you, Joshua?
Who is anybody? Right?
Like that's like my favorite question.
Exactly. In the context of what I've defined myself is changing every day, right? Like that's what growth is about. So what I have been, I could start there, right? I've been a father. I'm a father. I have been a career professional in construction and renovation of a university for the last 20 years. So anything that's built or designed or blown up because it didn't get serviced, right? Like I've been responsible for that for the last couple decades. And in that journey, I found myself kind of in a rut, honestly, of what I would say most people get into in their life, which is, oh, I got to do this, I got to pay bills, this is the thing I've set up, this is the career I've chosen, right? And the problem with the rut is you can't see over the hill, right? Because you're in a rut. Like you can't see a vision of where you want to be, who you want to be. You kind of already defined that for yourself. So about 5 years ago, I came to terms with like drinking and partying and all that stuff with my friends. And I just got to a point where it's like, I'm done with that. Like that was an old idea or an old way of fitting into the society that I was part of. And I had to shift that gear. So I did some deep work, right? Like I've spent the last 5 years in meditation. I went from 3 times a day or 3 times a week to now I try to practice twice a day, like in the morning, in the evening, reset myself before I start my day, and then do kind of what they call as recapitulation at the end of the day. So you're processing where you were, how did I lose track of my consciousness, right? Like deep work. I'm trying to ultimately grow into the best version of myself. Like I feel like that's the intent of life. That's the intent of a tree. That's the intent of a flower, right? To bloom and to be the best it can be. So that's really where I've been. And over the last 5 years, I would say I've learned how to become. And I don't know that I'm being anything as much as what's the next expression, right? So 5 years ago was the start of that process. I would say 3 years ago, I did what is called a Vipassana retreat, and it's a 10 days of meditation. Basically, it's just, hey, get to a point where you can experience life, right? It's Vipassana is kind of what Buddha taught 2,500 years ago, which is just how to understand and experience life in the breath, in the self, in the now, versus the chatter or the monkey mind going from idea to idea to idea. And it's like, how did I even get here? Right? It's a way of just being and cleansing the temple of the self, right? So there's this concept of anytime you are stuck somewhere, or anytime you have energy or emotion in a thought, right? The energy and the thought, the emotion and the thought bind together and get stuck in your body. That's what reoccurring thoughts are like. If you have continuous struggles that keep coming back, it's because that's still stuck in you. And Buddha kind of taught that whenever you keep adding fuel to that thought, every time it comes up and you re-engage, every time you like, oh yeah, that guy, every time I deal with that guy, and you're adding that emotion again, it's just more stuff you got to process through later, right? So you just building this fire inside of you that eventually has to burn out one way or another. Typically, most people are unconscious of that process. And so we just keep adding fuel to our own egotistical fires, if that's the right context. But anyway, in that 10-day retreat, I was able to cleanse a lot, man. By the 5th day, I was in tears. I was just, expressing, and I was able to get through a lot of things. And basically, I've been a professional. I've been in contracts. I've been in all of these things, but this idea came to me that was, I need to create my own sanctuary, right? Like my own space, my friends and families, generational security, if you will, like 10-acre farms, get trees and orchards out there, not for me, not for my kids, but for the grandkids, right? Because it takes that long to build something that's important, right? And there's tough times coming. I think everybody's aware of, climate and financial stuff around the globe. There's lots of tensions. So, 3 years ago, that was the thing. It's like, I need to create a space. And in that idea, my first reaction was, there's no way I can. That's just a different person. That's a different thought. There's no way I can align who I am today to that thought, right? And there was that separation, but that seed was planted in me. So over the last 3 years, I've been just continuously like, how do I get there? What do I do? I started painting and creating, and we can go into some of my painting and whatnot. That was really the healing process for me, was learning how to put on the canvas. And it's not that I'm processing anything. It's honestly that I'm not processing anything. It's my ability to go from a 10-hour work week day, right? Where I've got thousands of people coming at me for needing some solution to a problem that has happened or been ignored or has just popped up. Whatever fire, whatever flood, that's me. That's my role in that world. I come home, I can paint for a couple hours, and all I've got to do is stay in the line, right? Like my mind is just focused on such a small task of, I'm just going to put blue here, or I'm just going to put green here. And as I can just quiet my mind enough to just be here and now, all of that energy from the day can evaporate out of me. And then I can go back and then do the other things that I want to do without being tainted, right, by the world, because energetically we exchange energy all the time. So it's a way of, again, of being here and now, but also in a way that builds what I want to build, right? Expressing my art, doing that kind of thing. But it's not in a, I have to do something or I have to be somewhere. It's a, I need to decompress. So give me an hour, and I'm just gonna, I'm gonna work with orange right now. And for the next hour, I'm just gonna clean it up. So my art is unique in the fact that I paint in black light paint. I also paint in glow layers. So each piece of my art has 3 different colors, if you will. So it has a natural light, it has a black light, and it has, when all the lights are off, it will glow a certain layer. And I try to create context in each layer. But the unique thing about that is black light paint is super thin. So you have to, each painting that you see, so I have one painting behind me that I made for Snoop Dogg. I can go through that and talk about that. And it's not that I know Snoop Dogg, it's that, hey, I want to market my ability. I painted somebody who has a professional, very large audience. If he likes it, hey, take a photo next to it and say great work or something, whatever. I'm not worried about it. It's, you got to put stuff into the world for it to react, right? So this is me putting stuff into the world.
Joshua, I'm going to stop right there.
Please. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Did you want to finish your thought? Because I have a couple of thoughts on what, because
please. Interactive. I love interactive.
All right, awesome. Because you've said a lot, and I want to pause and shine a light on a couple of things that you've said. So you started out by sharing about your journey, your transformation, where you were and where you are at. And it's interesting the way that mindfulness, meditation, has played such a role with your transformation. Now, I have also been practicing mindfulness for a couple of years. And I love the fact that you said that the more that you spend your energy and focus your energy on something, that's what you're going to get more of. But the moment that, let's say, you have some inner wound or it's something that needs to be healed or released, right? Because it all gets trapped in our cells within our body. The moment that you start to place awareness on it, that's when you can start to actually truly heal it and release it and just create that flow of different new energy to go through you. So I love that. Talk to me, like we've talked, I think you were kind of alluding and you're starting to get into this notion of the be, do, have versus the do, have, be. So there's so much, right? Like, I feel like in society, we talk so much about like, I have to get that job that's gonna give me the money and then I'm gonna be happy, right? And that's where I think like, prior to, I'm going to call it awakening, whatever you want to call it, prior to this change that we go through, where what's an awakening? An awakening is remembering who you are all along, right? And that you're this energetic being, you're a soul rather than just the mind and the body, right? That there's like an entire energetic being within us and around us. And so what role is be, do, have playing for you? And be, do, have, for those who are not familiar with it, it's where you're first being a certain way, right? You're already happy, you're already complete, you're already whole. And then you're doing the art out of the state of beingness. And then out of that, you know that whether it's the financial abundance, the happiness, the joy that you want to experience, that's all you're gonna have that. So talk to me a little bit about the be, do, have and the role that it's playing for you and how it's now starting to reflect in your art too.
Sure. I guess the start of being is to understand that you're uncomfortable not being, right? Most people don't even recognize how uncomfortable in their own skin they are with the chatter and the stress or shame or pain or whatever they're carrying, right? Like, I was blessed enough to be in so much pain, I had to change, right? I find that most humanity, there's a threshold, right? Like, you don't change until the pain of the situation is greater than the pain of change itself. And so once you've gotten past that threshold, right? Like,
I'm gonna jump in here for a second, because that pain is what forces you to have to examine yourself. And I think that it's not until you actually come upon such torturous pain that you have to ask the question that it's not the things that are outside of you and external to you, but it's what is truly on the inside. And that in itself, realizing that it's you that you need to examine, I think that in itself is a tremendous journey to even get to that realization. So how did you get to realizing that? And like, because for me, it took me a really long time to figure out that it was me and not everything else around me that was causing me unhappiness.
I think I've always had the survival instinct. I grew up in a very rough house. I went through more doors and walls than I care to admit, there was survival things. So in that, learning PTSD, how to get through, how to read people, and I'm a big component of people who are sensitive to energies, usually had difficult childhoods and had to learn how to read energies. Like, you have to be able to see a situation and be like, that's unsafe, I'm going this way, right? Like, that's a baseline skill that people create. Through my life, I've had a lot of loss or pain or something like that, but that PTSD kicked in to save my life in a couple of situations. Like I got hit by a truck when I was 17 and I lost my leg. It got ripped off my body and I rolled into the ditch, and within a minute, I was like, okay, I was in an accident, tried to stand up. It was just flesh hanging off my leg. So I tore my shirt off and put on tourniquets. I crawled out of the ditch. I put my leg above my heart rate so I didn't bleed out. They told me I stopped the bleeding within a minute and I never even needed a blood transfusion because I was so quick to respond. So stuff like that, when the world gets crazy, my mind goes into hyperfocus. I can see and it all lines up, go. Right? Like, so I'm grateful for that stuff. That's huge for our life, for my life. I don't know. What else were we talking about? What else did you
No,
want?
we were talking about the be do have.
Yeah. So the being, right? So that how do you go from that state to no, I'm done with that. Again, it gets to the level of pain we create in our lives, and then you make that decision to say, I'm either gonna continue to build pain. Once you recognize you're the issue, you also recognize you're either going to continue to build it or shift or choose a different path, man. Right? Like there's a very wonderful poem that's like a 4-sentence poem that says, I walked down a street, I fell in a hole, it took me a while to get out. I walked down the same street, I saw the hole, I tried to avoid it, and I fell in the hole. It took me less time to get out. I walked down the street, I saw the hole, I ran away, and I still fell in the hole. And then the moral of the story is I picked a different street, right? Like that's what it takes, is you just like, no, I can't, I'm not going to go there anymore. What else is there? And so in that space of what else is there, right? That's when you go, no, what do I want to create? I've always understood I'm a very powerful person. No matter what I have put in my life, I have always achieved it. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have had a 20-year degree in very serious work, managing millions of dollars. And I was in charge of a lot of things by the time I was in my mid-30s, right? And I'm like, and that's really the time where I was like, well, crap, none of this is fulfilling. You know what I mean? Like, you got the kids, you've got the job, you've got all the things that you were told to do.
Yeah.
And now what? And that now what took me about 4 years down a drinking binge. That I was like, this is so not fulfilling. And that's where I had to make that choice, right? Like, no mas, no more. What now? How do I want to show up on a daily basis? And what are the skills I need to learn to show up? And what does it mean to show up, right? Like people say, oh, I'm woke and I'm going to show up. And you're like, dude, you're so involved in whatever story it is, you don't even recognize that there's 3 stories behind it that is where we're talking about, right? It's the I'm here now, right? What is happening in me? Why am I reacting to this? Somebody's doing something, but I'm also attaching. What is this story, right? Being able to encompass all of that in a moment, in being. And once you have that level, then it's like, cool, I have a superpower. How do I want to bring myself to every moment? How do I want to bring light to every moment where I can? When I see struggle, when I see frustration, I can walk in between frustrated parties and be like, hey, and I'll bring my light to it, and then they'll walk away in a better space, right? Yeah. There's struggle who come to me just to hang out and talk. And I'm always there to make sure that they understand the points of connection to whatever that story needs to be, right? Like I'm just trying to give them seeds. I can't fix anybody. I can barely fix myself. But if I can help somebody find their own path, or build their own trust in themselves, or learn their own discernment, right? Discernment is a very important piece, I feel, because discernment is felt in the body, where if it's right or wrong, and that's really that sacral chakra area that you can connect and learn how to connect to. And so many people don't even understand that, and so they're thrown by the waves of the world around them, rather than being able to just connect and be like, is this right or wrong? So many people are missing just that basic component, right?
How do you connect? I think people listening to you might be like, I'd love to connect. I have no idea how to connect. So how do you connect?
So if you've never meditated, this is where I always try to bring people to understand. And this is on my TikTok. I do have a TikTok. I do have j.spearcreative is my TikTok platform, where I show my art and I do things like that. Do you want me to show?
I was going to say, I will absolutely include it in the notes, because I'd love for people to check out your TikTok, but we're absolutely going to get into your art and we're going to showcase it because I think it's uber cool. So I'm super excited for it. But just
for
like give some tips to that
level,
person.
Yeah, the basic level is start with quieting the mind. The mind has static. Static is just the background noise that's always happening. Da 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 da. It happens so much that people don't even pay attention to it and they don't even know how to quiet it. So where I start typically is a place called Anapana. Anapana is just breathing, and it's training wheels to get to a deeper level. But first you got to learn how to quiet the mind, and when the mind runs, bring it back to center, right? Like those are the skills to be able to do. And once you have a defined, quiet, centered space, connecting with the rest of your body's a piece of cake. You just pay attention to it, right? You can touch different spots in your body and connect with your hands. You can do it mentally. You can do it in a lot of different ways. The key is the mind is like a lake, right? And the more waves on the lake, the harder it is to read subtle energy. So when you can quiet the mind and find that center still place, anywhere you focus on will give you much more information. That's the basics. How do you get there? You practice, right? You practice. I recommend 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week. Doesn't matter if there's 3 days in a row, just get into the habit of sitting and creating space for yourself. You deserve it, right? You deserve to live in a world that's not always chaos. And that world exists in yourself. Chaos is always going to happen outside. Yeah. Learning how to have that center in the middle of chaos is a personal, individual responsibility, right? Like we all deserve to have that inner peace. It's there. We just don't practice.
Yeah. One of the things that I do is I'm super hectic myself. Like I could easily live a very chaotic life with 2 kids and a job and like trying to build up a side business. But one of the things that I do is when I go out to walks in nature, which I do a lot of, I just look at nature. And instead of being stuck in my mind, I just observe nature. I look at trees, I listen to the birds. I try to take in what is the temperature even outside. So being present and aware of that moment and being in that moment rather than in my mind. And it's so easy for the mind to just run away again, right? For the thoughts to start to trickle in. And when that happens, don't judge yourself for it. Just say, oh, well, there goes those words. There goes the mind. And it's so busy once again. And again, recenter, just like you were saying, recenter yourself. Or in between meetings, I will take a minute break and I just look outside and I'll just look and stare at a tree. Because when you think about the tree is the true essence of presence. It's so content. It is so still. It is so magical and magnificent. So I think that we can even learn a lot from nature and just allow yourself that 1 minute. If you can't give yourself 15, give yourself 1, because if you do it 15 times a day, that's going to also add up, right? And it's going to absolutely help your energetic beingness, right? Your energetic state. So I love the fact that you're giving some like really practical tools in terms of like, how do you get started? Because I think getting started is truly the hardest part, because once you're like somewhat on your way, then the path starts to reveal to you and you start being led towards what you should be doing next. I'd love for you to share with us in terms of like in your journey, how you went from like all the things that you were doing as a mechanical engineer and, running all of these large initiatives to you becoming an artist. Like, did you know you were an artist? Did you know that creativity even lived in you? Like, where did that come from? Because like, I used to think that I didn't have a creative bone in my body, honestly. And not that I'm super creative now, but I'm like, it's like starting to come out of me a little bit more now. So like, how did that get awakened in you, or were you always an artist?
I did a lot of art as a child.
Okay.
And it helped me heal through a lot of crazy.
Okay.
As I was a teenager, I was very athletic. I did a lot of sports. I kind of left that behind. I got into the, the world and all those things. About, I'd say a decade ago, a friend of mine started painting wall murals, and he was going through a divorce at the time. And so as me just showing up to support a friend, I was like, hey man, let's paint together. And it was just Wednesday nights, a couple of bros, throw on tunes, hang out, bullshit, connect, right? Give support. And it was mostly like a Celtic vibe, knot work, and just learning and playing. And that's very, old and simple stuff, right? And so I did that for about a decade, honestly, with him and just hanging out. And then again, when I did my shift about 5 years ago, that's when I started to go, what can I do? What's my expression, right? And so I started playing with mandalas, honestly, because I appreciate the fractal nature of existence as a whole, right? Like, we're in three-dimensional space and time. We're sandwiched by infinity in infinite expressions in every direction. Like, that's just nature, right? It's all there, and we happen to be in this little niche, which is cool. What's my expression? What's my path? I don't know. I started doing like, well, here, let me show you.
Yeah,
this.
can you show? Yeah, I'd love to.
I'm just gonna show you the back of this hoodie that I made. So this is one of my first pieces I did.
Oh, I love that. Yes, gorgeous.
A tribal-esque, style, just to see what I could do, just to like merge and play. And so I did a series of 3 toads from the hell realms to the 3D realms to the infinite realms, you know what I mean? And they all have different tonalities and stuff like that. And that was really my first, let me see what I could play with, right? And then I started building other mandalas, and then I accidentally added paint that was blacklight sensitive, and I have other blacklight stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. What could I do with that, right? And so it just became an expression of, how do I do this? How do I do that? Let me play with this. Let me shade in blacklight paint. They only make like 10 colors of blacklight paint. So how do you get depth? How do you blend? How do you make sure that it has, pop when it's a finished product and it's not just like a 2D, right? So those are the crafting that I'm trying to get done. So, I mean, to communicate, like, again, I did this piece for Snoop Dogg. Let me see if I can.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's a painting. Okay. Yeah.
So it's 9 foot wide by 6 foot tall painting. Basically, this is the mandala part, but I also have this smoke that in my NFT, because Snoop Dogg is also in the NFTs.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to create this multiple platform to gift him something that is worth something to him. I mean, it's nothing from me yet because I am a no-name, but I just enjoy creating. So why not start? So in the mandala, in the smoke, you'll see in this back corner, there's an angel that's cutting through the smoke, right? And then in the other side, there's like this demon figure that's hidden in the smoke. And so it's basically those representation of what, the balancing of good and evil in ourselves. If it's good and evil, it's light and shadow. I mean, the world is diametric,
duality.
Right?
It's a duality. Yeah.
It has dual sides of any spectrum, and that's really what I'm trying to represent there. But in my glow layer, let me share this. This is the glow layer that when you turn off all the lights, the smoke will still come through. And then if you see, I'm starting to get some tonality in the different kinds of glow greens and in the shading of Snoop Dogg's outfit as well, right?
Awesome.
So this is when all the lights are off, this is what shines, right? I can't show you in reality.
Right.
But again, that's what I'm trying to create in every piece, is that depth. So on top of that, again, the vision, right, is to create a sanctuary. I want to spend the next 20 years of my life building this thing so that when I retire, I can just exist. I want to have a space that I can help people. They can just show up and stay as long as they need to do deep work. Like, that's it. Like Airbnb with a sacred space that we can meditate, train, learn how to disconnect from the world, heal, and then go back to the world as a better person. That's the vision. I work, I do all the things. I have enough money to take care of my kids. I got enough money to take care of my bills, that kind of stuff. I needed another source of income to build that dream. So I created my own clothing brand in order to try to get there, right? So that's 2 months in the process, and I'm barely starting that. But let me share my screen again, and I'll show you this website. I just want to show you, this is like my generic website with some other, can you see my screen?
I can perfectly. I was on your website, and I actually really enjoyed looking at your artwork. Yep.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is the hoodie I'm wearing right now. And then this is the Snoop Dogg hoodie, right? And if you see, you can see the angel and the demon that I blended into the front piece of the Snoop Dogg hoodie. And then we have the back, right? The back mandala.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, technology doesn't print this in glow paint yet, but I was thinking about, for raffles and stuff like that, or maybe even just Snoop Dogg's specific one, I would go back over the green leaves and the smoke and put in fabric glow paint as a personal touch. Just as a one-off, I thought would be a cool thing. So again, that's me trying to take art in what I'm doing in that level and then bring it into a brand, which, hopefully people love and support. I mean, the point of my brand is, here's my brand name, of course, is J Spear. It's just my name. It's just who I want to be. And my logo is basically a sun shining your light, right? Like, express who you are in many ways. And so that's essentially what I'm trying to create in my art, like different pieces of art. I've done sacred art. So this hoodie right here is pretty cute. I'm going to show you. This is.
I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. And that is, I know that you love every work of art just the way you love all your babies, but do you have one absolutely favorite work of art that you're like immensely proud of that maybe you want to showcase after this piece?
Yeah. So this is my sacred heart. This was done for a friend. Can you see the secret heart? So this was the first painting I did for Josh. And this is my, what can I do? What can I bring into the world of art and try to express? And so this is less overall mandala-y, but it's got the lotus in a mandala shape. It's got this framed piece where two lovers are uniting. And I mean, for lack of a better term, I was manifesting my divine partner when I painted this painting, okay? So, and she showed up. And it's amazing, so it's cool. Anyway, this is the black light version of it, right? This is that layer when all the lights are off, and how that looks. And then in the glow layer, it's just the two people kissing, and the galaxy behind them glows as well. So, anyway, those are my.
I love the position of the colors, the light with the dark, and all the other like hues that you've like embedded into the artwork, and the heart just like truly glowing, like so bright. I think that's beautiful. And it also, I think, is like a reflection of your logo with the sun shining, right? Like the heart is glowing and it's like shining upon you. So I think that's quite beautiful. Show us your absolute favorite work of art.
Let's see.
If you have one. I know this is such a difficult question because I'm sure that you love all your babies equally.
Yeah. Let me, what I love actually? Can I show you my YouTube?
Absolutely.
Let me see. I'm gonna stop sharing because I forget which account it is. Do you have any other questions about this while I bring that up real quick?
No, I mean, I guess, do you believe that you're expressing your pain in your artwork, or have you shifted from, expression of pain and really expressing more of the future self, or the self that you are now, who is content and is just like in such a different place energetically and emotionally?
I would say I don't express pain or sorrow. I would say every piece of art I do, I try to connect with it, and it's usually light I'm trying to bring to the world in some way. As I develop, let me see, this is my site, my channel, my videos. As I develop, so this was a painting I did for my lady, right? This is Phoenix Rising. It's a super long video, but beautiful. Again, here's a Ganesh.
You're not showing the
Oh, I'm not?
you're still showing the heart, the sacred heart.
Let me go share screen. Here we go. So here's a Ganesh. Ganesh is a Hindu god, right? Ganesh represents actually sexual energy in the root chakra, and it manifesting through all of creation, right? All the levels of creation. And this was a kind of an impromptu painting for a friend of mine who was like, hey, paint me a Ganesh. Like, perfect. It was just, let me experience that and play with it, right? And see what I can create. And again, trying to play with NFTs. This is the Ganesh with black light and regular light mix, and then it'll go into the black light layer. Give it a second.
This is amazing. How long does it take you to create these art pieces? Because they look huge.
And then that's the glow layer that's in there. So when all the lights are off with the Ganesh, it's consciousness expanding, right?
It's amazing.
So each painting is easily 100 hours. Right? It's again, each layer of glow paint is super thin. So what you're seeing here is 5 layers of blue and 5 layers of yellow in what's glowing, right? Minimum. In everything else, it's got 4 to 3 layers minimum, just to be able to look clean as that type of paint, right? Because that type of paint is very specific. It's got to be thin so the reactive pigments can show. So it is what it is. But here's the fun part: when you just touch and feel the artwork, there's this whole texture and life to it that is super powerful as well. And I connect that way to my art very often, where the feel of it is super fun.
I think it's fascinating the way that the painting transforms throughout the day. So in the daylight, it's going to look one way.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And as you transition from day to evening to night, and it's completely dark, the painting is a completely different and transformed painting. And then you wake up the next morning and it's back to where it was before. So, I mean, I think it's incredible to be able to experience the same painting, so many different ways, in so many multiple different ways. That is absolutely fascinating. So what is your YouTube channel, and how could somebody find you there?
My YouTube channel is j.spear_creative. Same as my TikTok and my Instagram are all that j.spear_creative. It's just something I've been trying to understand and grow, because I have so many different ideas and caveats and things that I want to just do and create and be a part of. I figured that would be a title that could go through a lot of different stuff. And also, I have ideas of like affiliate marketing, where if I can get my hoodie and clothing line to go, if people want to create with me and be a part of that, I mean, I'd split profits 50-50. I'm not worried about that. It builds itself when you create the environment for good people to show up in your life, right? Like that's my belief. I just want to I don't know, express, right? That's the piece, is express the best that you can in any moment. And when you get, I guess, stuck in that rut again, right? When you start to get loss of vision, when you don't know where you're going, or you can't see where that dream is, you get into the rut. And so having my dream, finding that again, that 5 years ago, when I went from like, I could never create that, I could never create a space that would help people, I do this has been my life. And recognizing that the shift in that lifetime is the point. That's the vision, right? And it's about holding that vision, and wherever you start from, it doesn't matter. The vision can change if it needs to. Like, the important thing is to have vision, to have something to move forward to have something that you grow into. And once you're at that place, keep looking, keep looking for vision, right? Keep looking for, no, I want to tweak it this way, I want to tweak it that way, I want it to look like this and feel like this. And the more that you can bring that feeling into it, bring that ideology of what it looks like, what it feels like, that gives you the strength to have consistency to keep showing up, right? I was in my notepad here. This is something I wrote it down that was very powerful for myself, which was, consistency in a dream is the discipline of loving yourself daily. Right? Like, I gotta give myself the love of discipline, so that when I'm on my deathbed, I can look back and say, I filled my purpose, I filled my life with love, and I showed that to the world, right? Like, that's what matters to me. I think anything less is too small.
I agree. And yeah. I think, one other thing is to have that light. Like, I love your logo of being the sun and the light, because that light, that passion is what drives you and what keeps you going on the days that you're tired, on the days when you're stressed, on the days when you maybe don't want to do something in, service of yourself or in service of others, right? It's that light and it's that passion that keeps you going. I have so loved learning about your journey and about your art, and thank you so much for showcasing it. What would be kind of like your final parting thought for anybody who is out there seeking to be in a place of where you are now? Because I think everyone wants to be in a place of passion, of knowing what their passion is. But so often we're so lost in life, so lost. And even when you discover what that passion is, I think it's so easy to feel lost or to feel stuck.
Or to not believe in yourself.
Or to not even believe in yourself. Absolutely.
That's where I had to start from, was like, that's a dream for somebody else. Because
exactly.
Right? Like, that's how it starts.
So what would be that like parting thought and wisdom that you would want to give to you 5 years ago?
Yeah. The parting words of wisdom are, perspective is everything, right? Wherever you're starting from, you have a perspective. You're either worth it or you're not, or it's gonna work out or it's not, or it's whatever you create. But understanding, again, just like pain, once you understand you're responsible for the pain in your life, and then you choose to move through it, you also have to recognize you're responsible for your perspective in life. How are you choosing to show up on a daily basis, right? How are you choosing to set your own filters to perceive reality? And it changes as you change inside. So if you want to start a path of understanding life in a joyful state, understand that life is joyful when you're not filtered away from it. Joy is the natural state of life. Look at birds, look at butterflies, look at trees moving in the wind. Everything is at work and in joy. The only thing that's not is humanity, because we've separated ourselves from it. So once you learn that that's a reality, or at least a potential reality that you can exist in, right? Like I get, it's a hard stretch for people. Quiet the mind, find your center. Once you've dealt with the baggage that's here and let it out without adding more to it, you will have space to allow more light in. That's the process. You cleanse, create space, allow light, and you just grow. I mean, it's a beautiful cycle. It's tough because it's hard to face our own, some people don't like the word demons, shadows, whatever. We have to face our true past. We have to forgive ourselves, which is hard to do. Come to terms with that. Untie the knot of energy that's inside of us and allow it gone. Once that's gone, you have the space. Life just shows up. And honestly, it's how you show up daily. Am I giving light? Am I giving love? Am I giving support? Or am I demanding things? It needs to be this for me. It needs to be that, right? Am I trying to control? The controlling is restrictive. Life will continue to be restricted. When you're in flow, right? Flow state is a scientific state where, and really it's super easy to get into flow. People just don't recognize that how much joy comes from just being in the moment and creating, man. It's a beautiful thing you can do for hours, and you look up and you go, I'm ready for lunch. Oh crap, the sun's down. You know what I mean? Like that's flow. And to live a life where you're just so involved in life that it's fun that you don't want to do anything else. Like, why wouldn't you want to live there? Why wouldn't you want to exist there on a daily basis?
And you can't. And that's the thing, right? And it's like you said, it's a choice and it's a decision that you make. And the moment that you make that choice and that decision, the path will reveal itself to you. So, but thank you. Thank you for this very insightful conversation. I feel like it was, mindfulness, motivation, art, spirituality, it was such a multidimensional conversation because you're such a multidimensional being, multidimensional artist. Your art is multidimensional. So I genuinely appreciate your time, genuinely loved the conversation. We will be posting this on my YouTube channel. I'm going to share this with you and you can share it out on your YouTube channel and create more content and cut it. And you have said so many profound and beautiful things. So I hope that this brings you the visibility that you truly, truly deserve in this crazy web sphere that, everyone is trying to cut through the noise. And truly, thank you for your time and for sharing your wisdom today and your journey. I loved it.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity, and you have a blessed weekend, okay?
Thank you. Do the same. Take care. Bye-bye.